Welcome to Salt City Knits. I'm Emily, and this is a podcast about my knitting and making. And I am coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. Today is March 21st. So happy spring, everybody. I'm excited to be with you today and to share some finished objects and some works in progress and a book recommendation. So it's been a really great week. We've definitely felt a little bit more springy here in Salt Lake, even though we did get some snow yesterday. So yeah, that's just how it goes, but it's not too much and it's already melting and it's still definitely warming up. So it's really great. But I've had a productive week and I'm excited to share some projects with you. Also, I have to say happy birthday to my mom and to my niece Anna, who both have birthdays today. So my mom says that Anna was her birthday present and Anna is her youngest granddaughter. So that's really fun. Unfortunately, my parents are celebrating my mom's birthday with my dad being in the hospital for some medical care. And I think he's doing okay, but it's not fun. So yeah, definitely any prayers you would be willing to share would be great. I have wonderful and amazing parents. And actually, speaking of my mom, I thought it would be fun to put in here some pictures with my mom in some of the things that I have knit for her over the years, either for Christmas or birthdays or Mother's Day. She is so knit-worthy, which is always a funny thing to say about somebody, and people who aren't makers don't necessarily understand that term. It doesn't mean that as a person they are more worthy than anybody else. It just means that they appreciate and love the things that you make, and that therefore, you know, it's an appreciated gift when you make something for them. My mom is definitely that way. I have made some really fun things for her over the last several years, and I get so excited to make things for her because she loves them and she uses them and she wears them and treasures them. And I have a long-standing agreement with my mom that especially for things that take a lot of like care and blocking, that I will also wash and block those things. You know, each time they need to be washed, I will take them and do them. Most of them, I think there's only really one that she's had me do that with. And it's this one right here that I'm showing, and it is called Flowers for Yvonne, and it is by Romi Hill, the pattern. And yeah, that shawl we jokingly call the Shawl of Death because I thought I would die before I ever finished it. It was a rough go. And then it turned out so absolutely amazingly beautiful. But it was one that it was a little bit of a challenge, mostly, I mean, it's a complicated lace weight shawl, but mostly because the yarn that I picked, it was I'm never going to remember what the yarn was. I don't remember, but it had a lot of tencel in it. It was silk and alpaca and tencel, I think. And it was so slippery. I normally knit on metal needles, but I had to switch to wooden needles for that one because I just couldn't keep the stitches on the needles. They were just, and if they fell, they just, you know, fall down, run down rows. And so, yeah, it was a challenging project, but it's so beautiful and my mom looks amazing in it. And so anyway, thought I would spotlight my beautiful mother. She is just one of my favorite people in the whole world. I love her so much. And she's hilarious and gentle and extremely intelligent and just such a great cheerleader and best friend. So love you, Mom. That's fun. So yes, happy birthday to her. And I always love thinking about that. My mom's birthday is always either on the spring equinox is usually the day before her birthday. And so usually her birthday is the first full day of spring, and that is so happy. So it's a great, great day today. So finished objects. I wanted to start out first with those. And last week I showed these as half finished objects. Both of these I finished this week, and I'm excited to share them. So first off, I'm going to share my Clover Springs socks. And these are the DK version of these socks. I'm trying to tilt them a little bit so you can see the texture. The kind of here, it's kind of hard to show. Oh, there you go. You can see the twisty texture. They run opposite directions for left and right foot. Flip them over here so you can see this one. The twisty texture runs this direction, and on this one, it runs this way. And I knit these in with 2 strands of fingering weight to get a DK weight yarn. And these are knit with Candy Shop yarns. This color is Neapolitan, which is a combination of strawberries and chocolates and vanillas. Neapolitan ice cream specifically is the name of the colorway. And then this one is Heartthrob. And both are on her Simple Syrup base, which is an 80/20 merino nylon sock yarn. And I again held the yarns double. So I held 2 strands of the Neapolitan, and up here I held 2 strands of the Heartthrob. And one thing to note with making these DK socks is that I used the entire 100 grams for these socks. And so I knit my toes. I just started my toe, my color change higher than where my toe decreases start. So you can see my toe decreases start here, and I changed color. I think it's 10, did I do 10 rounds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I did 8 rounds. 8 rounds before I started my toe decreases. And that meant that I had enough yarn to knit these socks. So that is something to remember with DK socks. I think if we are used to knitting fingering weight socks, you know that you can easily get a pair of socks out of a single skein of yarn. Sometimes 2 if you use a lot of contrasting colors for heels, toes, and cuffs. But each of these socks weighs 65 grams. So it does take more. It takes more than 100 gram skein to knit them, if you're going to knit the cuff this long, and if your feet are as big as the ones I knit. So, I mean, it can vary, of course, depending on your size. But I really love how they turned out. I love this just simple, twisty texture. It's made with knits and pearls, and I've now finished knitting both pairs. Here is the fingering weight pair, which I've shown before, of the Clover Springs socks. They twist in opposite directions as well. These are also Candy Shop yarns. And this pattern will be available first week of April. That's when it will be coming out. So I will have it available. It's only in one size, but it's available in fingering weight and DK weight. And it's 64 stitches for the fingering weight and 48 for the DK weight. And yeah, this pattern will be coming out then. It will be available on Ravelry and at yarnberry.com. And I won't probably show these again until the pattern is out. I just need to do photos and do some last finish tweaks on the written pattern, but it's pretty much ready. So it will come out then. So I'm really pleased with those. They turned out great. And I would say that simple textured socks are some of the funnest to knit. I did realize that this pattern with the texture, it does work better. It's great. Obviously, this is a, speckly yarn. These are speckly yarns, but they're subtle speckles. It wouldn't work as well. And I did test it on more dramatic speckles. You just you just lose the pattern entirely. So, but on a speckle like this, it works great, where it's quite subtle, slightly, I don't know, I want to say monotone. Obviously this has blue and gold in it, but I should say blues and gold, but it's still a more subtle colorway. So I find that it works better for that. All right, the second finished object I have are my Wasatch Socks. Again, this is a pattern that I am designing, and this one will be a little bit later in April, but it should be by the end of April. And although I don't know, they might come out at the same time. We'll see how the next couple weeks go for my schedule. I have a really busy schedule outside of my knitting for the next couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens. But I really just am so happy with how these have turned out. I'll take one off the blocker so you can see. This is also knit in Candy Shop Yarns on her simple syrup base, and the colorway is Spruce. And I did knit these obviously with no contrasting, heels, toes, or cuffs. I just really love just the simple one color. It's got this fun cable pattern that runs down the front, but I think it reads even more like a texture because it's, oh, I just think it's really pretty. Anyway, and it runs down the front of the leg and the foot. I just really love it. What else do I want to say about this one? I did all the cables. All the cables are 2/2, so they're 4-stitch cables. And I worked all the cables without a cable needle. I have talked about that in previous episodes, so I don't need to go into probably too many details, but they turned out so nice. And this pattern will be in 5 sizes, anywhere from 56 stitches to 72. Yeah, I think that's everything I want to say about that. I really love it. All of my sock patterns currently, and these as well, are knit cuff down. I knit them all on magic loop, and I write my patterns assuming that you are working magic loop as well. I don't think that's exactly true. I do try to make it, no, that's not true. I have some tips for magic loop, at least the way I do them, which I showed, I think, 2 episodes ago. So that would have been episode 3. I show how I manage my cables while I'm doing my gusset decreases with magic loop. But they are written so you could use any method. If you like DPNs, you could do that as well. So anyway, I just really love them. They turned out great. This sample is a 68 stitch count. And they will eventually be for my daughter, I think, my youngest daughter. So aren't they pretty? They're so nice. I'm just loving socks right now, just loving them. I have 2 works in progress that I'm going to show you today. I'm still, again, not showing my raglan sweater today. Because I am designing that cardigan, and I'm really trying to focus on the fit of that cardigan. It does involve some knitting and some ripping back and, you know, calculating numbers as I'm designing it. So it's taking me a little longer. And so brain space, I wanted to finish the designs here for these socks, and then I will get back to that cardigan. So it's kind of on hold for right now. That being said, brain space is totally fine for this fragmentation shawl. Again, I won't go into major details about this shawl because I have talked about it quite extensively on the last few episodes. So I just want to show my progress. I have completed section 1, wedge 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and now I am on my 5th wedge out of 7. I anticipate that I will have this finished by the time I record again. The busyness that I have coming up this week involves a lot of knitting time because I will be doing interviews for our youth program that I work with called Heroic Youth. It's a nonprofit leadership training program for kids. And we are going to be interviewing 115 teenage boys this week, all on Zoom. And so I have a lot of time sitting in front of the computer where I can often be knitting while I'm doing that. So this is my project that I'm planning on working on during that, because even though it takes a little bit of attention by this point, I mean, it's really not taking any brain power. It's in my head 100%. I don't have to think about it. I can just do it. So I can just work on it. And you know what? I am looking at that and I'm kind of regretting this orange right here. I was hoping it would read peachier, but it's kind of reading Crayola orange marker right now, which doesn't really seem to fit in with the rest of my palette. But I'll tell you what, I don't think I'm ripping back. No, I can guarantee you I'm not ripping back. So it will just be my little orange. And really, when it comes down to wearing it, it's going to be like this. You won't even see it. Oh, it's so pretty. I love this project. Again, I've talked quite extensively about it. So I don't really have much more to say other than it's so much fun. So I love it when you can just find a pattern and put your own kind of color stamp on it so it looks completely different than kind of the designer's stamp, but still be just the pattern. You know, I'm just knitting the pattern. So it's so pretty. And it's going to be gorgeous and huge, which I love. I can't wait to get this one done. This is probably one of those things that after you finish it, it'll have to be draped on the back of my sewing chair or something like that, because it'll be decor as much as something for me to wear. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say about that. Oh, I can update that I finished all my measurements. The Surrey alpaca for each wedge, that's what I'm doing. 11 of my 21 stripes in each wedge are out of my 100% fingering weight. 100% Surrey alpaca, it's fingering weight. It's this undyed one, and I realized I have those ends to weave in. I got all the ones along the edge done, but I neglected to do that. This is where I changed skeins, finished my first skein and added in my second. So it's that point in the fourth wedge where I changed. So each wedge is taking me 26 grams of this color. So that's the entire wedge. So that was really helpful for me just to know. I mean, I already knew I wasn't going to run out of yarn, but just another reassurance. So you need, if you were to stripe it in this method, you would need 2 skeins of your kind of main color. And then anywhere from under 1 gram to 5 grams. 5 grams is for these longer stripes of your different scraps. That's just fun. So hopefully that will be done next time I record. Oh, it's so pretty. So pretty. All right, I cast on a new project because I had finished up all these socks. I needed a new portable project. I like to take my knitting to church on Sundays. Our church, we have 2 hours each Sunday, and the first hour is the whole congregation together. It's kind of, it's called sacrament meeting, but it's kind of the general sermon. We take sacrament, which might be similar to other faiths as communion. And then our second hour is divided up in, and it's kind of depends on the week, but we have classes that we do, you know, kind of scripture study classes. And so I usually take my knitting, and I try not to knit during the first hour, although this last week I did. I was having an extra anxious day, so it really helped me to have my needles in my hands. But I pretty much always knit during the second hour. And again, a lot of that is my anxiety issues, and it really helps. So I brought this project with me for working on, because you have to have a sock project. I mean, let's just be honest. They're the best portable ones. This little project bag and what it contains were my birthday present from my dear friend Renee. And I believe she bought these as a kit. This bag comes from Stitching Plaza. It looks like the label says. It's kind of hard to read. And it's a Pride and Prejudice theme bag. Look, you've got Jane and Bingley and Elizabeth and Darcy. And what else do we have? An ink and quill pen, the fan, and it looks like a handkerchief. Yeah, and then there's different quotes from the book. There is a stubbornness in me that cannot bear to be frightened at the will of others. My courage always rises at every attempt to intimidate me. Oh, just love Elizabeth Bennet. Isn't that just the prettiest little bag? This pretty paisley, and then it's lined with this blue polka dot. And the yarn is from Area 1 Fibers. Let's see. Oh, if I can open it. Area 1 Fibers, and it is called Oh, Mr. Darcy. It's a self-striping yarn, and these are the colors. Isn't that fun? And here is my sock in progress. So this is how it's knitting up, and I just love it. And it came with this blue mini skein, or at least my friend gave it to me with this blue mini skein. I don't know if it came together, because I will be honest, this one came out of my stash. These three are all different bases. I can tell this is, I'm sure, an 80-20 merino nylon. This seems like the same base of Candy Shop Yarn Simple Syrup. This one I know is a 75-25, and it is going to be probably 460 some odd yards to the 100-gram skein. I know because I'm pretty sure that's the same base that was my classic sock from Yarn Brary. And this one is a slightly different base. It is, it's also 80-20, 425 yards to 100 grams, but it's just got a different feel. I think it's a 4-ply, whereas this one is either a 2 or 3-ply. I think this one's a 2-ply and this is a 4-ply. So anyway, they're all slightly different bases. So I don't know, when they were given to me, they were packaged together. So they might be, she just used two different bases. It's not typical, I don't think. I really have no problem with it. It's all fine with me. It's all sock yarn. It's all working up great. It all looks beautiful together. I knit the cuff with the cuff pattern from my Candy Floss socks, which has a twisted cable stitch happening in the cuff. I had forgotten how much I love that. It's just such a fun little detail. Very easy to do. And it makes a lovely and nice and stretchy cuff. And what else? I think everything else is just a stockinette body and a slip stitch heel. And they're just fun, and I love the yarn. Isn't that just cute as can be? Self-striping yarn is always so much fun. I'm using this little stitch marker. Now, I could tell you, I'm going to tell you wrong. I have 2 of these little enamel birds that are 2 different colors. One came from Little Robin Cottage and one came from So Sweet Violet. And I don't remember which is which. I think this one was Little Robin Cottage. I bet you it was, because the other one, yep, the other one has some violet, which makes me think this was probably Jules from So Sweet Violet. But either way, I love them both. And it just seemed very fitting to have this little pretty enamel bird as my progress keeper. I have a ridiculous obsession with pretty progress keepers. I tend to go for the very pretty jewel-like ones over things that are more kind of themey. So things like this that I would wear as jewelry. This one is from Amy at Taylor S Studios. Little turquoise heart. I make a lot of ones. Oh, I mean, I do have this one. This is so cute, and I love it during Christmas time. This is also from Candy Shop Yarns, but look at that little gingerbread man. But I tend to reach for the pretty over anything, and I used to make a lot of progress keepers for my shop, and so I have like this little angel. A lot of them came with sets, like sock sets. I think this was one I did for a Christmas yarn. I don't remember. I think that might have gone with a Nutcracker set. Got, what else do I have? Oh, I don't know. I love gold. Oh, here, I like this one. I had some knitters necklaces for a while, and this was one of the progress keepers that came on that. Anyway, I love gold, and I love sparkle, and I love really feminine, pretty. You know, it's jewelry for your knitting. Doesn't it just make you happy? So this project is just bringing me a lot of enjoyment right now. And when I go to teach my writing class in a little bit, this will be the thing I bring with me. I actually am not teaching today. It's our last class in this round. And so they're mostly just working on their projects to finish them up for the end of the course. And so I'll be there as a question answerer, but I'll be bringing that with me. All right, that is everything that I had to show as far as my knitting, but I wanted to share a book recommendation. This is the book recommendation I was going to share a couple of weeks ago when I completely forgot to include it. And this was recommended by my friend Margaret, and it is called Moonraker's Bride by Madeline Brent. Madeline Brent was actually pseudonym, a pen name, and now I can't remember his name. I just thought it was really neat because a lot of times you see women writing under male pen names, but you don't as often see men writing under feminine pen names, and I think that, or female pen names, and I think that speaks to the market for this specific book and what he was trying to accomplish there. But I have read only one other book by this author, and it was called The Golden Urchin. I love that book too. And last year I read it after I read it originally when I was a teenager. And then last year I read it in January of 2022, and then was telling my friends, oh, I just read this again and I remember how much I loved it. And my friend Margaret said, so coincidental because one of my favorite books is Moonraker's Bride by the same author. These books tend to all feature a really strong and adventurous female main character who is living in a rough situation, usually in a culturally different place than her birth. And there's some mystery and intrigue and some romance, but none of those things take precedence over the development of her character. So in this case, our main character, who now, can I even remember what her name is? Completely gone from my mind. What is her name? Oh my gosh. Lucy. Lucy is a girl growing up in China. Come on, brain. Let's do this. Let's work. She's growing up in China and is one of the few English women there. And she is in really rough circumstances and ends up having to flee, and ends up back in England. And I'm trying to think of the time period. I would say it's roughly turn of the 19th to 20th centuries, or maybe early 20th century, probably early 20th century, like the 20s-ish. And anyway, she goes through a whole adventure in trying to figure out who she is and how she fits into the world, and mysteries surrounding both her birth and her heritage, and her desire to still love and serve the people in China that she cares about. And there's a great romance, and it's all really good. So it's adventurous. It's a quick read. It's no longer in print, but it is available on Kindle, and this, you can get it on like thrift books and things like that. My library doesn't carry it, I'm sad to say, at least not, I lied. I haven't checked to see if they carry it in print. They don't carry it digitally. There's no audiobook for it. It's been out of print for a while, but it's so fun. And I really encourage you to try out Madeline Brent in general. Again, Golden Urchin is one of my favorites, and it takes place in Australia and England. Similar time period. And it's just really fun. So I loved it. And you could tell that Margaret bought this from a library or from like a used bookstore, something like that. Because you can tell it used to be, here, let me cover that up. It's got withdrawn on it. It's stamped, which means it's been taken off the shelves and no longer available for circulation. So she loaned that to me, and it's been well loved. It's a well-loved book. I love a well-loved book, don't you? Where you just pick it up and you can tell this has been, part of their, one that they've picked up and read over and over and over again. There's some smudges on the pages and things, but it's just, oh yeah, it makes me happy. It reminds me of my first ever copy of Pride and Prejudice, which I also got at a used bookstore, and it had the plastic, library cover on it, and it had a similar feel to the pages and everything. And I wore that thing out until it completely fell apart. So anyway, that's my book recommendation for this week. And I just also have to say thank you so much for all of you who made such kind comments about me sharing one of my books last time. I am no longer in the phase of life where I am pursuing publication with my writing. And that's okay. I'm happy with that. It doesn't mean it won't come again, but right now that's not one of my goals. But it's still nice to be able to share a book baby with the world and have people, find, give me some feedback. We're all like little moms with our babies, where we want people to tell us how cute they are. So it's really great. And I'm really proud of that one. That is everything I had for you today. I hope you have a wonderful start to your spring if you're here in the Northern Hemisphere. And also, great weather to all of our friends in the Southern Hemisphere as well. It's crazy up here in the US. The weather has been extreme all across the country this whole winter. So I'm pretty sure most of us are really eager for the weather to be good. But I can tell you how happy it makes me every morning to wake up and have the sun kind of filtering in through the curtains, and mostly to hear the birds outside my window in the morning. I love that so much, and you can tell it's spring when that's happening. So little serenade there. So I wish you birdsong and sunshine, and I will see you again next time.